Alright, I know you want to get to your tutorial for the Pokeball and I ain't gonna stop you, but let me just take 1 minute to share with you something that I believe can add lots of value to you. I put together a course called the Ultimate Blender Course. Now this thing has hours of content, it has tons and tons of videos, and it covers a lot of subjects and topics within Blender. In fact, it's from A to Z, from the very basics of Blender all the way to the more advanced things. And by the end of this course, you'll have the competence, the knowledge, the know-how, and the confidence to be able to take whatever you have in your imagination and bring it forth into the world of 3D arts and 3D graphics. Now this course, I'm super passionate about it. I put my heart and my soul into it, and it's just packed with tons and tons of value. So if you're wanting to learn Blender, this is the course for you. And I'm having a pre-launch right now, and this special will never be around again. So make sure to click the link below, check it out, and get involved with this. This course is going to be packed with value. You're going to absolutely love it. So with that, click the link below, check it out before the pre-launch is over, which is in a couple days, and register for it. Alright, appreciate you guys. Now enjoy your tutorial. I'll see you soon. Ciao. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and add some materials to our Pokeball. From what I remember, Pokeballs are not gray. So, hitting A to select everything, let's hit G and Z and bring this above the grid floor. Cool. Now, I'm going to select the empty over here and hit R and X to rotate it so that the ball is open for dramatic effect. Alright, cool. Now, what we want to do is select the top sphere of the ball, go to the Materials tab over here, and before we do, let's change it from Blender Renderer, which is the old way of rendering, which kind of sucks. No, I'm being so harsh on it. It was good while it lasted, but now we're moving on to Cycles Renderer, so let's switch to that. No hard feelings, Blender Renderer. And let's click on New Material to add a new material. Now, let's go ahead and rename this to Pokeball Red. Now, naming is one of those things where you don't want to do, but it's a good habit to have. Alright, now we're going to change it from diffuse, and before we do, I'm going to first hit the T key, close that up, and then split the screen by going to the bottom left here, left clicking and dragging, and then changing this one from the solid viewport shading to rendered. What this allows for us to do is to see how our scene would look like when it's rendered to our final composition, which is pretty sweet if you ask me. Alright, now we're going to change it from diffuse to a mix shader. Now a mix shader, as the name implies, allows for you to mix two shaders together into one shader. So first shader that we're going to select, getting all tongue-tied here. First shader we're going to select is the diffuse shader. Now the diffuse shader is just plain shader. There's no shininess to it. It's just plain and diffused. The second one we're going to change it to is the glossy shader. Glossy shader is basically like a shininess shader or a reflection shader. So what this does is now it mixes both of them into this. Ta-da! And of course, let's change the color of the diffuse to a red color. Cool. So now, a couple options we have here. The factor is basically how much it is mixing in the diffuse with the glossy. So at a 0.5, it's mixing in 50% diffuse and 50% glossy. All the way at 0, it's 100% diffused. And all the way at 1, it's 100% glossy. And right now you can see that it looks gray because it's reflecting our background, which is gray. Now, let's put this down to a value of, let's say, 0.1. And then another value that we have here is the roughness of the glossy, which basically the lower it is, the more sharp the reflection and glossiness and highlights of your shader. You can see that right now the highlight is very sharp and crisp, and the reflection is very sharp as well. The higher we go, the more diffused or scattered the reflection of our glossy. So I want the roughness down pretty low because I want it to be pretty sharp on there. Want it to give it a cool feel, so that's about good for me. Alright, you might have a different value if you want. Don't feel like you have to copy me on everything. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't school where you have to copy the answers. Just get a feel for whatever it is you want, although these are rough values that I like. Alright, let's select the bottom one, shift select the top, Control L, and let's copy the materials. That way we don't have to redo all of that. Now the Pokeball is all red, so let's go ahead and change that. Of course, you can do it like that if you want. I'm not going to judge how you're making your Pokeball. It's up to you, you know. Now, what we have to do is hit the 2 right here, and this will make it a single user, because right now as it is, if we change the color on this one, it will change the color on both of them. So, hit the 2, and then go over here and change the color to white by increasing all these values to 1. And let's rename this Pokeball White. Cool. Now all the values are set. We're good and good. Select this middle part right here, which is, I guess, the part where it opens up. Shift select the bottom, Control L, and copy the materials. I'm sorry, I don't have all my Pokeball names down. I don't know what that's called. Alright, now let's select this ring right here, and this one we want to make it black. So select this one, shift select the top, Control L, and let's copy the materials. Now, on this one, let's go ahead and hit the 2 as well, make it a single user, and rename it to black. Sorry if I'm a little bit fumbling on my words, I'm just too excited. Alright, and then this color, we're going to make it black. So first I'm going to bring all of these to 1 to make it white, and then bring this down to make it black. Then selecting this bottom one, shift selecting the top one, not that one, the top ring, Control L, and let's copy the materials. Cool, so there we have it. That's the materials for our Pokeball. Pretty sweet, and you are good to go. That's pretty much it. Now you can play around with the settings, of course, make it a little more shiny or whatnot if you wish, but that is the materials for the Pokeball. Now, it's looking a little bit bland, our scene, so I'm actually going to go ahead and recreate that scene that I had done in the, so our scene is looking a little bit bland, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and recreate the little scene that I had on the thumbnail image. So, if you want to follow along, feel free to. I won't be hurt if you leave right now. No, I'm just kidding. It's up to you. I won't be hurt. Maybe a little bit. Alright, let's hit Shift-C to center a cursor. Shift-A, add a mesh, and we're going to add in a circle. Let's bring it up, and then hit Tab to go into edit mode. E to extrude, Z, and let's bring it down. Now, let's go ahead and hit E to extrude, right click to leave it in the center, S to scale it up, and then E to extrude, Z, and bring it down once more. Alright, now Alt right click this loop right here, and hit F to fill in that face, and now we have a cake for our Pokeball to be on. Perfect, exactly what we want, right? A cake. Hitting Tab to go into object mode, T to bring up the tool shelf. Let's hit smooth to smooth shade that. Now, I want to smooth this out even some more, so what we're going to do is add a subdivision surface modifier. So go into the subsurf modifier tab right here. We could go to add modifier and click on subdivision surface, or we could hit Control 2, and that is the shortcut key to add a subdivision surface. So we just saved 5 seconds of time, although with my talking, we lost it once again. Alright, so subsurf, what subsurf does is, if I hit Z to go into wireframe, you can see that it subdivides it and smooths it out. Except now it's too smoothed out. So, hitting Tab to go into edit mode, let's add some loop cuts. Control R, add in a loop cut right here. Control R, add in one there. Control R, one there. And now hitting Control Tab, go into face select mode. Let's select this face, E to extrude, right click, and then scale it in just a tad. And one more time, E to extrude, right click, scale it in once more. All right. And let's do it one more time. E to extrude, right click, scale it in one more time because we're going to need that extra loop. Now, my rotation is a little bit funky right now where it's rotating a little weirdly. So I'm going to hit the delete key on the numpad. That's going to zoom me right in and fix my rotation. Cool. All right, let's add a material to this. Go to material. Let's click new. Let's name it cake. And I know it's not a cake, but we're going to name it that. And then bring the brightness or the darkness down a bit. And let's go ahead and add some neon lights to this to make it look sweet. So let's go ahead and click the plus sign. Click on new. We're going to change the material or the surface from diffuse to emission. And just like the name implies, an emission shader allows for your shader to emit light. We're going to make this a blue color, or you can make it whatever color you want. No, you got to make it blue. Follow along now. I'm just kidding. Make it whatever color you want, and then I'm going to increase the strength after. For now, hitting tab to go into edit mode. Let's alt right click this edge loop right here, and then hit E to extrude and bring it down. And then go on this material and click on assign. How sweet does that look? Well, let's bump up the strength to 50 to make it look even sweeter. Now that looks cool. Let's add a couple more of these in. It's going to look even cooler. So I'm going to hit Control R and type in the number. I actually want to add in some thinner strips over here. So I'm going to hit Control R. Bring this to here. Control R once again. And just add in 3 of these like so. So Control R, I just added in 6 loop cuts here. One next to each other, or 2 of them next to each other so that there's a face loop. Control Tab, go into face select mode. And then Alt right click, Alt shift right click I should say. All the loops that you just created, and then go to this material, the new shiny, the light, the blue light, and click on assign. All right, cool. Now, of course, we did not name this, so I didn't know what to call it. So let's name this Blue Neon. Cool. All right, so that's looking pretty sweet. Now, let's do a couple of last things. What we're going to do now is add in a backdrop here. So Shift A, add mesh plane. Let's scale this up. This will add some nice glowiness to the floor as well. Hit G and Z and bring it up to right there. Control 2 to add a subdivision surface level of 2. Tab to go into edit mode. Control Tab, go into vertex select mode. Select these vertices. And in side view, 3 on the numpad. If you've forgotten, I'm here to remind you. E to extrude, and extrude it to there, and then extrude it up all the way up. And now hitting S and X, let's scale it along the X-axis to infinity. Cool. Hit the T key, and let's smooth it out. And there we go. And hit G and Z and bring it up to there. All right, cool. Now let's do a couple more things. Let's change our light here. We're going to select our light, first clicking on use nodes, and then we're going to click on sun. We're going to add in a sunlight, and that is bright as heck. So let's change the strength down to uno. That's 1 in Spanish for you. And then hit G to grab it and position it how you wish. depending on how you position it, will affect the shadow of your scene, of course. Now, before we go any further, let's position our camera. So bring your viewport or where you're looking at the ball to where you want your camera to be. So mine is going to be around here. And then hit Control-Alt-0 on the numpad. Man, do I love that hotkey. That just snaps the camera to whatever view you're facing your scene. Right-clicking on your camera, hit G to grab it, and then G, middle mouse click to zoom it out. Select your backdrop, R and Z to rotate it on the Z-axis, and rotate it like so. Alright, let's add a new material to this. Name it backdrop. We're not going to name it like that, but just backdrop, that's fine. And then let's change the color to a darker color. Make it an ominous Pokemon feel. Cool, cool, cool. Now, 2 more things I want to do. Because I know you're going to ask, Alex, there's no bolts on our thing. Yeah, I know. Sometimes you put in a reference image and people are like, I didn't get that exact result, Alex. I'm not happy with the tutorial. Well, okay. I'll give you everything. I'll give it all to you. Let's select the lamp. Shift D, copy it over, and let's place the sun into the Pokeball. Except we're not going to leave it at sun. We're going to go over here, change it to a point light. And then I'm going to change the color of this to a bluish color. And bump up the strength to 50. So now we got kind of like something magical is happening in our Pokeball, ladies and gentlemen. Something magical. It's the birth of a Pokemon. Alright, cool. So you can bring it up or down depending on how you want the feel of it to be. For me, that's good. Alright, cool. I actually want it a little more white blue because that's a little too blue for me. Yep. There we go. Alright, cool. One last thing we're going to do is we're going to add the bolts to our floor. First, I'm going to select the floor, hit Tab to go into edit mode, and Alt right click the loop right here and just bring this up because it is way too thick. And now, hitting Tab to go back into object mode, let's bring it down. And then also Z to go into wireframe, B, and box select all of this. B, middle mouse click this to deselect this and the sun. And just with our ball and everything there selected, let's bring that down so that's touching our cake. And now to add in the bolts to our cake. Kind of strange cake. It has bolts in it. Select the cake, or the podium I should say, or the presentation turntable. Shift S, cursor to selected. Go ahead and hit Shift A, add a mesh circle. This is going to be very, very fast. We're going to change the vertices to 6 in this panel over here. If this isn't open, once again, press the T key. All right, I'm there for you. And then the fill type, we're going to change it to N-Gon. Now, in edit mode, and make sure you're in edit mode, hit Tab to go into edit mode, bring it out, S to scale it down, and hit G and Z and bring it down to where it touches the floor. Just above the floor, hit E and bring it down to extrude it down. A to select everything, and you could bring it down some more and bring it out to where you want it. Cool. Now, hitting Tab to go back into object mode, we need to add an array modifier to this. So go into the modifiers tab, which is this little wrench icon. Add modifier, array. Hooray for arrays. All right, except now it's going in the wrong direction because right now we have relative offset. So, array, basically, if you don't know, basically duplicates your object into a certain amount and a certain direction without you having to duplicate it. So here you could increase the amount, etc. Except it's being used in a way that we don't want right now. So click off relative offset. We're going to do object offset. So for the object that we want it to rotate around, we actually want it to rotate around an empty. So hit Shift A, add empty, plane axes. Actually, you know what? We're going to go fancy. We're going to add a cone empty. Why not? Actually, that's kind of confusing. Shift A, add empty. Let's just go with plain axes. Thought I'd go fancy, but it just looks confusing. All right, now let's go back to our array modifier, or our bolt right here. Object offset, let's select empty 001 because the first one is the empty that we have for our Pokeball. We don't want to use that. Bump up the count to 10 or however many bolts you want. Select your empty. And now if you hit R and Z, it will offset it based off of this object, which is the empty, because that's what we set it to do. Cool. So there we have it. Now just select your bolts. Add a new material. I'm just going to leave it at diffuse for now, although I'm going to rename it bolts and bring the brightness down. So there we have it, ladies and gents. There's your Pokeball. How sweet does that look? I mean, it looks pretty sweet. All right, so of course you could go ahead and tweak it some more, do some stuff, play around with it. But for now, that's about it. One last thing, to render it, just go to the render tab and you want to go to sampling and increase the samples. Now, the more samples you have, the less noise or pixely it will be, but the longer it will take. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you render it, you might see, like you see right here, some little white little dots that stay in your render, and those are called fireflies, which are annoying. But in order to get rid of some of those, you could go to your light that's in your Pokeball, go to the light settings, and you can play around with the size and the max bounces. Now, the size will affect basically how your shadow is in your scene. The smaller the amount, I believe the sharper and crisper your shadow is, and the bigger the amount, the more diffused and the more spread out your shadow is, which can be more realistic. But again, it depends which style you're going for, but this will affect the fireflies or the little white dots that you have in your render. So I'm not going to bore you with that, but definitely play around with that and the sampling. But there you go. There's your Pokeball. So let me know in the comments down below what Pokemon is coming out of your Pokeball. For me, it's still Charizard all the way. I might be old school, but I know a good Pokemon when I know one. All right, so Charizard. Let me know what's yours. If you need help with anything, let me know. Please follow us on Facebook, Blendermania. Comment down below, like this video, subscribe, and look out for my course that's coming out very shortly. I'll have a link for my course down in the description below. Check it out. All right, see you for now. Appreciate you guys. Ciao. Let's go ahead and click on render. And there's our beautiful render. Very well done. So again, if you want less noise, increase the samples. I'll see you in the next tutorial.